A group of Hashira broke into the secret palace of Muzan, and everyone is looking for the Devil King to kill him in the end. Tanjiro was accompanied by Giyu. He was running inside the palace and trying to follow the scent of Muzan, and suddenly, without warning, Akaza appeared in front of them. Finally, the moment Akaza has been waiting for came, and without any delay, Akaza attacked, trying to kill Tanjiro here and now. But it was just an attack without any focus. Tanjiro was able to escape easily and cut his arm too, but as soon as he got down, he found Akaza's bite in front of his face. He was able to avoid it at the last moment. Even Akaza was shocked by the speed of Tanjiro, especially that he was able to split his face in that difficult situation. Giyu was also amazed by the level of the new Tanjiro. Akaza evolved very quickly, to the extent that Tanjiro became at Hashira's level, because he was able to deal great damage to the upper moon without being hit by a single arrow. Akaza finally confessed to Tanjiro, and said that Rengoku's words about Tanjiro's strength were true. That's why he showed his respect and decided to fight with all his strength. And from this moment, the real battle will begin. Giyu and Tanjiro against the third upper moon. Akaza Giyu was the first to move. Using the third form, Akaza avoided the attack and testified with his strength. Then he threw a bunch of destructive sticks towards Giyu, being able to deal with it using the seventh form, the form of difficult perfection. Even Akaza admitted that he had never seen anything like it before, and that the last Hashira he killed did not use it. Tanjiro, my brothers, tried to provoke Akaza with an attack from behind, but Akaza was faster than him and disappeared, and appeared behind him. Tanjiro was literally going to die, but Giyu cut Akaza's arm at the last minute. Akaza was renewed in the case and pushed towards Giyu. Tanjiro tried to take this opportunity to cut Akaza's foot, but Akaza noticed him and kicked him to the point that Tanjiro lost his kicking power. Here Giyu tried to provoke Akaza so that Tanjiro could stand Akaza, enjoyed the fight. And now, he is the winner. He has a terrifying power in his feet. No one can stand in front of his kicks, even Giyu could not deal with it. He literally sent him to the other side of the palace. And finally Akaza was left alone with Tanjiro, and no one bothers them now. Tanjiro uses the breath of fire to try to stop Akaza, but he is still weak compared to Urui. Here Akaza began to benefit Tanjiro by talking about Ringo, and what happened in the train incident. He was bewildered by Ringo's ideas and principles, and called him a fool, because he died in the end. This angered Tanjiro, and he told him that he will not allow him to be more dependent. Akaza's most terrifying thing is to be threatened by a weaker person, because the most he hates in this life is the weak. But Tanjiro's words about the strong, helping the weak, is a must, reminded Akaza of a man who died. He was wearing a judo uniform, and his words are similar to Tanjiro's words. These memories seem to be true, to the extent that Akaza believes that there is really someone behind him, and also to be shocked that there is no one. He did not understand what happened. Tanjiro was surprised by Akaza's incomprehensible behavior, but Akaza threw Tanjiro with a terrifying look. It was a sign of the beginning of the fight again. Akaza attacked with crazy force. All Tanjiro did was retreat. Trying to avoid those deadly attacks, Akaza made Tanjiro in a very difficult situation. Here Tanjiro tried to read Akaza's movements, and at the moment of departure he almost cut Akaza's neck. But his attack was not deep enough. Akaza was surprised and realized that he could lose his life at any moment if he did not focus. But nevertheless he continued to attack, and Tanjiro only defended using the breath of the sun. Suddenly Akaza grabbed Tanjiro's sword. Here Tanjiro used his second weapon. The forehead he stabbed Akaza. However, this was not enough to break the sword. He tried again to reach Akaza, and he failed again. Tanjiro knows that if he loses his sword, he will lose his life. At this moment, a stream of water intervened and cut Akaza's hand, and with this Tanjiro was liberated. Giyu finally returned to the battlefield, and this time it was clear on his face that he was angry. And finally he woke up Giyu's body, ready to extract everything he had. Then he rushed to Akaza. Akaza tried to stop him with a direct hit. Giyu was able to avoid it and targeted Akaza's neck. Literally, this is the second time in which Akaza's neck will be saved from being cut. And all this because of his rest. And as the saying goes, the third. Fixed. Anyway, Akaza retreated, but Giyu didn't give him a chance. He continued to attack and pressure Akaza. Tanjiro watches the battle and tries to find a way to surpass Akaza, because Akaza has a terrifying sense that allows him to predict any attack, even if it comes from behind him, as if he does not have any blind spot. Therefore, Tanjiro thinks of a way to overcome this defense. Then he noticed a suitable opportunity to attack Akaza's neck was exposed. He used the breath of the sun, But at the last moment, Akaza stopped the sword with his bare hands. By the way, Akaza is the only High Moon that fights without weapons. And we continue. Tanjiro became exposed. Akaza was literally going to break his neck, but he avoided the bite with pleasure. Even Tanjiro didn't believe he survived. He tries to understand and remember what happened at that moment, how he was able to avoid that deadly attack. And the more he remembered that he was able to see Akaza's body, transparently he was able to see his muscles, his brain, his blood vessels. But so far Tanjiro didn't understand how he did it. Does it have to do with the power of the sun that he has? Or is it a new ability he has? But at the moment, the more he thinks about it, the more he focuses on it. It's just Akaza's defeat, and from that moment, Tanjiro will be able to see the transparent world. He will be able to predict Akaza's movement just by watching his muscles move. Meanwhile, the fight between Akaza and Giyu is still going on. Giyu used all forms of water breath. Unfortunately, Akaza was able to deal with it all. Here Akaza started with a joke from Giyu. He told her, "It looks like your moves are over. There's nothing left for you to hide from me. So, your end is near." And with a single punch, he broke his sword. And literally the same scenario Rinkoku was going to repeat with Giyu. But Tanjiro, at the right moment, cut Akaza's arm. Neither Giyu nor Akaza expected this. The mark on Tanjiro's forehead became bigger than ever. This reminds me of what happened to Giyu. At this moment, Akaza's muscles began to relax. This scene reminds her of the Yorichi legend, to the extent that Akaza said, "Every cell in my body tells me to kill this." Immediately, Akaza felt a big danger, away from Tanjiro. That's why he started fighting with everything he had, using his satanic power. The time of the fight was over and Giyu's time came. Giyu tried to attack, but Akaza couldn't do anything Tanjiro, until now still trying to adapt to the new vision. Giyu couldn't resist Akaza's terrifying attack, and in the end he fell with many injuries, but Akaza praised him because he was able to survive. This attack is the strongest attack against Akaza, and he is supposed to be a killer. And it is very difficult, impossible to escape. That's why I like Giyu, and he was supposed to be a devil. He told him, "Don't die like Tanjiro and Rengoku. Don't waste this chance to evolve more and more." Akaza thought Tanjiro was dead, knowing that he was right behind him. Even Giyu was shocked how Akaza didn't notice Tanjiro's existence. Suddenly Tanjiro moved. Akaza looked at him for the first time. Fear appeared in his eyes. He tried to bite Tanjiro, but Tanjiro, with a terrible speed, avoided his attack. Then, in a moment, he jumped in the air and did what was not in his plan. He was able to cut Akaza's neck in the end. No one expected it. Akaza didn't believe what was happening. But when he looked at Tanjiro's eyes, he understood. He understood that Tanjiro was able to open the door to the other world, and for this reason, even his presence was different, and his touch couldn't follow him. Throughout these centuries, Akaza dreamed of reaching the level of seeing the other world. This is the highest level a fighter can reach, but it seems that his life will end without achieving his goal. And here, the surprise happened. Akaza was still attached to life. He held his head and began to try to attach it to his body. Then Giyu moved, he threw his sword towards Akaza's head and dropped it. But Akaza didn't want to give up. His head began to shake and his body was still stable and didn't fall. Tanjiro, when he saw that his head began to shake, he thought that this battle was over, so he relaxed his defense. Giyu saw that his body wasn't shaking. Something strange was happening and his feeling was in his place. His body moved and took the fighting position. Akaza overcame death. His head recovered slowly, but no problem, because the sword covered his eyes and attached his enemy's place. And the first one who touched was Tanjiro. He literally stabbed him in the wall. Tanjiro, because of the stability, he lost consciousness. Akaza moved towards him to end his life. Giyu, at that moment, he pressed on himself and stopped Akaza, but he couldn't stand for a long time, so his body, unfortunately, fell. Akaza pulled on him. So all he wanted was to kill Tanjiro? Here Giyu stopped again and told Akaza, "If you want to kill Tanjiro, you have to kill me first." And here, the memories of the past returned to Akaza. His teacher remembered and his wife remembered. Giyu stands with difficulty and feels as if his body is tied with giant chains. And he knows that he is winning. He won't survive Akaza's attack. He just carries his sword and waits for death. But he doesn't know that Akaza takes another fight with his memories. So his good old personality tries to return. And at this moment, Tanjiro regained his consciousness. He found Akaza almost recovered. Half of his head, Akaza was planning to kill Giyu, so he was surprised by Tanjiro's ability to move again. Tanjiro targeted Akaza's neck again, but suddenly the sword fell from his hand. His grip was no longer able to hold the sword. And yet he didn't lose. the chance to attack, and so did Akaza. Instead, of course, it doesn't make sense. Tanjiro now. Without defense in front of Akaza. Akaza literally at this moment. The most thing Tanjiro wants in this life is to kill Tanjiro. He hates him so much because Tanjiro reminds him of his teacher. Tanjiro's features, his words, his kindness. All of this helped Akaza to regain his memories. Akaza was ready to repeat his destructive attack. At this moment, Giyu moved and pushed Tanjiro away from the attack. But something unexpected happened. Akaza smiled like a friend. Tanjiro's eyes didn't believe what he saw, and instead of firing Akaza, he fired him at himself and ended his life by himself in a magnificent scene. His body began to regenerate, but Akaza stopped and admitted that he was defeated at the moment in which he cut his head. That's it, he lost. And it was over. The resistance will only hurt his pride as a man. Here Muzan's cells began to order him to fight again, and literally he was going to submit. But his wife's memory stopped him. Akaza in reality was kind, and even turning him into a demon wasn't his choice. Muzan liked Akaza and turned him, despite it, and erased his memories. That's why he shouldn't blame him for his actions, because she wasn't afraid of him. And here, officially the death of the Akaza, and he died as a man. And in this video you will find the whole story of Akaza, and I will leave the link in the first comment. And that was everything for today's video. I hope you liked this battle, and thank you for your support. And see you next time, friends.